everyone, my name is Lily, and you're listening to Humans of Authenticity, the CEO Special Edition. Our guest today is Kelli Baxter, Executive Director at the American Translators Association. I attended Kelli's session at the ASA annual meetings in 2023 as well as 2022. Welcome to Humans of Authenticity, Kelli.
Thank you for having me.
Would you like to introduce yourself to our listeners?
Yes, my name is Kelli Baxter. I am the Executive Director with the American Translators Association. We are headquartered in Alexandria, Virginia. We are a 501c6 trade association of more than 7,500 members who are professional translators and interpreters, mostly freelance translators and interpreters of all languages. So our membership base is a broad base of cultures and languages. We have members all across the country. We have company members, we have universities that are members, and our mission is to expand and to broaden the professional base and advocate for those that are in the space of translating and interpreting, bringing a better voice to us. I realize that right now our industry is in a state of a bit of shock with AI. So one of the biggest initiatives and challenges at the same time that we have this year is that we are expanding our educational efforts to our members to show them what AI can do to assist them in their day-to-day business.
Can we unpack that last bit about the shock with AIs? And I've heard that in a lot of different associations in industry, the thought of AI will replace jobs is out there. Whether it's real or not is a different debate. Can you walk through for us what's the experience from your associations as well as from your members when interacting with AI?
Well, there's a difference with translators versus interpreters. Translators translate from one language into the other face to face. Interpreters do the same, but they interpret languages in the court systems. Our interpreters are probably using AI tools more than the translators. Translators are the most anxious. They don't understand how it can help them. And our biggest challenge is to continuously teach them how the use of AI doesn't take away their job, because you will always need that human translation, the human interpreter. As you can see, you can use AI and type in something and it will translate that sentence, that word, into whatever language. If you're a native speaker of that language, you could look at that and say, that's not really what that means. And so that's what our members experience, and that's what they're advocating on the Hill and with other associations. I'm finding that we are now in a space where we can increase our collaborative efforts with other associations. ATA is the largest translating and interpreting association in the country. So we have an opportunity to really pull together all of those groups and help teach and educate our broad member base.
That sounds really exciting. Now, before we get into the real interview, you mentioned that you get to the ED in a very non-traditional path.
I did. My background is pretty broad. I consider myself like an association brat. And for those who know that word, it's like a military brat where you've grown up in the association space. I grew up in the association space by way of my parents being members of ASAE 60 years ago.
Wow.
When it was GSAE, it was just the Greater Washington Association of Executives. And so I started in the space literally at 18 because I was working with my parents, and we had a conference. They would have contracts. They were consultants. They would have me go to the conferences and conventions. I was the meeting planner. I was the associate. I was the meetings coordinator. I was the sponsorship and exhibit project coordinator or program coordinator. So I learned that piece. I learned from a very early age the project management side of things, the logistics, the main customer service and member services of associations. And it grew. My career took me out of college to traveling internationally for an international air carrier. I spent 15 years traveling and learning. When I look at things hindsight, I'm like, wow, this aligns to where I've gone in my life. I went from traveling to wanting to start my own business. So from working in the travel industry, I ended up going back into working for myself. I created my own company in real estate, and I was a real estate settlement services agent. So I had a title company. I was handling commercial real estate title closings and residential title closings in Maryland, DC, and Virginia. And the economy took a dive in the 2009, 2010 timeframe, and that's when I pivoted a bit and started sticking my toe back into the association pool of let me just see what's out there. I really enjoyed the nonprofit world. And so I started going back into let me just do some contract work. I work with one of these associations in the DMV and instantly was tapped for a couple of roles that turned into me finding an association management company. I thought, okay, that's a nice way to get back into the swing of things. And that's where I had my first taste of the non-traditional executive director role. I was hired to be an administrator and a COO for an association management company and one of their largest clients. And 90 days in, the president and CEO of the association passed away. And so that catapulted me up instantly into the number one role. And everyone looked at me and said, "You're it." I thought, wow, I'm still trying to figure out where the bathroom is. So that was my first taste of it in 2012 or 13. And since then, I've had other roles within the association space, and it's been very interesting. The next time was, yes, I'm still the COO, but association's executive director retired or resigned. And so there I went back into the role. So I started thinking I must have a sign or a light on my forehead that says, I already know how to do this. So in the event you need it, I'm here. And so I just started to realize, oh, I need to hone in on these skills. I'm learning. I had a lot of on-the-job training just with two associations where there were instant situations where I had to step into the role instantly. And so I was never afraid to do that. I was actually motivated to really show what I could do because I've been in the space and I had watched my parents at that point work with other associations as the executive director, as the chief operating officer, as the finance director, as the meetings director. So I came full circle and decided throughout my few years with the AMC that I really was interested in working with a standalone. I really wanted the chance to dive into being the association employee, like being their employee and not being the employee of the AMC where I had several different clients. I was fortunate enough that each time I worked with the AMC, I had one client because I would always get the biggest client. I'm not sure if that's because there was just confidence in me. I assumed that they knew based on my track record that I could handle the biggest clients and build the teams, and I was able to successfully do that in each opportunity. So once there was one AMC merged with another. And I started thinking, wow, is this my opportunity to tap into working for an association? So I decided to do that. I decided, okay, I'm going to take the leap. I took the leap, but I took it in a different way. I stepped out and started my own consulting company because I had the experience in the interim role so many times. I felt like, wow, I could just start contracting out to people. And at the time I was doing it, it was the time frame of COVID.
Mm,
COVID comes, and I thought, wow, this is perfect. And in that time frame during the lockdown, I worked with three different associations in the interim role. All three times there was a retirement of the current executive director. They had all been there for 20 plus years. And the board leadership decided that they were ready for the change. They would like to have someone that was strategic in their role and could assess the organizational structure, bring in new employees, and move the association forward. And so that's what I did. Each time I would step into a new role with new staff. Some had tenured staff that had been there, but most times it was new staff that were coming in at the same time I was having to build a brand new team. And in my last role, I was a one-woman show at a small association that's based here in DC. So I contracted out. I had a lot of vendor contractors that I used for different phases of processes that I needed help on. So it brought me full circle to the opportunity with ATA. That actually popped up during the Nashville conference right after my session. I actually
Mm.
did my second interview after that session.
Wow.
I had to go back to my room and I did a video conference and interview with them. And I thought the interview went so well. And then at the end, they said, "We have a question for you. We saw your video and we saw a dog and we just want to know what your dog's name is." And I was mortified because I thought, oh my God, I didn't realize my dog was in the picture when I did the video. And they said, no, 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 we're all dog people. That's why we want to know. So they all put
Oh
their
my
pictures.
goodness.
They put the pictures of their dogs up and said, "This is great. We thought you're the perfect person. She's got a dog." And I thought, okay, well, so
Wow.
so that's how that started. I started with ATA in October of 2022, and it's been a journey. It's a similar entrance because I am succeeding a long tenured executive director. He was there for 26 years and he had a team of 9 people that had also been there mostly, I think on average, 15 years each. And so I had a very, very veteran staff, and the board recognized 5 years prior to me coming on board, it was time for them to expand and to start looking into the future of ATA and what does that look like and what do we need to do. And one of the things was to migrate to better technology. And so I had background in already technology by way of just
Nice.
working with other associations and knowing these types of systems and understanding it. And one of the first charges they had for me was implement the AMS. Like, okay, sure, I'll do that. But it's been a challenge. It's been a very, very long road. Now I'll be 2 years here in October and the AMS has been launched finally. I found out that this is a project that started almost 10 years ago and
Wow.
very different than I think a traditional way of technology moving forward and being implemented. So that has probably been my biggest challenge. It's just not knowing the unknown and finding out things as I go along. As an executive director, there's always on the job training. I think that's where all of the strong leadership skills come in. The things that you've learned, you keep them in your back pocket. I probably have read more books and listened to more audio books in the last 20 months than I can probably remember. I take a lot of notes, I read a lot of articles, and I'm always trying to make myself better for the position in.
That is awesome. I can see your passion glow when you share that stories. Thank you so much.
Some people work with associations because it's a job. There are a lot of us that really love what we do. I love what I do, and I love seeing the results of what I do and my efforts. And I think that's what makes this position as executive director, as hard as it is, I think that's what makes it rewarding, even with the tough challenges.
Mm. Can we go back to the very first time where you were COO and then appointed to CEO? What went through your mind emotionally at the time? Were you scared at all? Did you ever questioning whether you were ready for that task?
I did. I had nightmares. Not only did it happen in a 90-day time frame, the president and CEO passed away. I had to notify the board. The conference was like within 60 days of her passing. So I
Wow.
had to shift and pivot everything to make it a celebration of her life. And she was the pillar of the association. It was quite a shock. She had been sick for a long time, but she didn't reveal that to the board. Only a couple of folks knew. One of the consultants on the board knew, and he turned out to be one of my biggest mentors. And he started asking me, like, what would you do if she died? He started saying that like 2 weeks in, and I'm like, what? Because I actually interviewed with her and she said, I guess you're going to be it. And I didn't understand what that meant. She said, I'm going to take some time off to have some medical procedures or something like that, she said. And I thought, wow, okay, she's going to take some medical leave. Okay, no problem. But I have Colonel Page. He knows what's going on. I have the board chair. I know they're going to be able to help me. And so when she passed away, it was quite daunting because I didn't know what was next. I was like, whoa, but I know how to run a meeting. So I already know what has to happen for this meeting to go off without a hitch. I just need to figure out, how am I honoring her? How am I following in her footsteps? The good thing was that she was prior military, so she was very organized, and it was an
Okay.
ABC 1, 2, 3. So everything was documented. I was very, very fortunate that she was very organized and things were in place. So yeah, I had some nightmares with, okay, what happens if this? What do I do with that? I've like had nightmares that I missed a presentation, or I don't know how the board agenda needs to be put together. I don't know who the players are, who the real players are. And so I did have some fear. And with that fear, though, came some strength, out of just deep down strength that said, wait a minute, you got this. You can do this. You have people that are here, that have been here. You have a board. You have the support of your peers, and you have your parents who've done this their whole lives. So call them. And I did. I said, look what just happened. What do I do? But it prompted me to want to continue to learn. It really helped me understand the role, and it made it fun because then I got to say, oh yeah, I know how to do that. I definitely know how to
Mm.
do that. Yes, I can be a one-woman show and I can do every single thing. I know exactly what happens and what should happen with every single department. And I can't wait until I get to go to an association and have a big staff, and I can just have people that are running each of those departments. That became my goal, really.
I'm also throughout your story hearing a lot of willingness to learn, and I'm very grateful to hear that. It sounds like for each of these opportunities, you pick up new skills, learn new things along the way. Think about that whole journey and the different lessons that you've learned. Is there one that stand out for you as the most important lesson that you have learned in this journey?
The most important lesson I've learned is to be patient and be flexible. Be
Can you
flexible.
can you elaborate
And
that for
being,
us?
yeah, and being patient with myself when it comes to not really knowing or being afraid, being patient with my staff, being patient with the board, with transitions, being patient with personalities, because with change comes a lot of emotional stress. So I've learned to be patient. I've learned to be adaptive with the change and really not take things so personally. And I will think back and think, okay, well, what could I have done better? Was this my fault? So I've tried to give myself a little bit more grace, and I've learned to just be more patient and adapt to the changes. And that's probably why on my resume I put I'm a great change agent, because I've been able to navigate through multiple challenges and change within associations, and it's always made me a better person, because I've now have learned that, oh, that messy mess there was a learning experience for me to be stronger in the next role. It's everything that's happened to me has happened for a reason, and it's made me stronger. And so where I am today, I can see that the lessons learned from that very first experience of having the CEO gone, and now I have to just learn everything and find everything. It has really helped me map out here, especially with ATA, my first 100 days. What does that look like? And what if? How am I going to react if this is not there? If this doesn't happen the way I expect it? So being patient and just rolling with the punches, as some people say, has been a big lesson.
I'm always interested in the what if because that's give me an insight into your creativity and perspective. Can you
Mhm.
share with me one of your what ifs on the list?
In every role that I've taken, I put a 90-day plan down. And
Mm.
as I get in, like every week, I would update that plan. And then I expanded it to 100 days. I'm like, let me see, what am I gonna do in the first 100 days? And it's interesting to see how things shift. And I always have okay, well, what if this happens? What if my entire staff leaves? What am I going to do? What's my plan? And sometimes there's a plan, sometimes there's not. But I've always tried to have some sort of an example of, okay, if this happens, I know I have the capability of calling on this person to help. I know I always have this resource to turn to, and it's turned out to be really good for me. You have those faithful associates that you've worked with for years and years that you can trust. I've been able to call on my consultant friends and associates and say, I'm moving on to another association. Please know I'm going to call you if I need something. It's very reassuring for me to know that I came to ATA and, for example, found out that there was nobody in marketing and communications. There was no hard, fast sponsorship or marketing plan or communications plan. And there was nobody that knew how to do certain things in graphic design. I could pick up the phone and say, hey, Renee, guess what?
Mm.
I need you for this XYZ. Here's the scope. I need you to come in. Let's try this out. I need you to help me pick the pieces up for this association and set it up right for me. That's been very rewarding for me. I think that the relationships that you build within the association space are very valuable. And I'm very big on utilizing those people that I meet and gain referrals from. The consultants that I've met within this space over the last 15 or 20 years have been lifelong friends, and they're the people I call on when I make a move. Okay, I'm making a
Yes.
move. What do you think about this? This is what they're doing. What do you think about that? My brother is in the association space. He's actually just moved out of the space, but he's an IT director. And so I've used him as my punching bag. Like, okay, here I have something I need to ask you. Here's the system. This is what they're using. What should we be doing? And he tells me, here's what you need to ask for. Here's what you need to do. Tell them this. Here's an example. Here's a draft. Use this. Here's a template. So I keep all of them, I say, in my back pocket. My
That's
team,
awesome.
of sorts.
That's really cool. Thank you. Now, forward to today. I'd love to hear what's your mantra as an executive director.
My mantra has not really changed that much, and it is preparation is key, but flawless execution must be your forte. And I received that from a mentor back in 2014, and he's a retired Army colonel. And he would always tell me, you have to be prepared. You have to prepare. And over the years, I've thought about it. My husband is a Marine, and he
Mm.
always would tell me in the Corps, if you're supposed to be somewhere at 11:30 and you get there at 11:30, you're late. And I would think, oh, wow, preparation is key. You have to be prepared. And you have to expect the unexpected and still be prepared. And that's a challenge for CEOs. It really is. So my mantra is preparation is key, but flawless execution must be your forte. I have to be able to execute on the mission and be prepared for that mission. So I'm always looking to be as flawless as I can. I know that sometimes that's not possible, but you try to
I
keep your
hear
poker
you.
face on. I don't know how good my poker face is, but I was told the other day, like someone said, "Oh, your face was telling it all," and I thought, "Oh my God." I said, I try. I mean, with all that's happened to me in the last few months, it's been hard to not show it. It's been very hard to not show it, but it's, I've had a few mantras but that is the one that sticks out. And I share that with my current team members. I recently read a book about time management in your workspace, like your day to day and week to week calendaring. And they talked about not just looking at the current day or the current week, but always looking 2 weeks forward. So you're
Mm.
prepared. And so that aligns perfectly with my mantra. And for the whole summer, that's what I've been doing. And so when I had my accident in July, what was in my mind first? Okay, what am I going to do at the end of July when I know I'm supposed to travel? Now I know I can't travel. I have to prepare for what that looks like. And that's been my mantra.
Thank you for bringing that up. Flawless execution. I feel that it's easier said than done. How
Yeah.
do you balance the reality of we are humans, we are not 100% perfect with the expectations of flawless execution?
Well, flawless execution is in and of itself, it's a word. And let's just say nobody really knows that you don't have flawless execution except for you. So it's really a battle with yourself to be better than you were the last week or the last minute or the last time. And it's executing to the best of your ability and trying to be as flawless as possible. No one's going to know that you're not flawless unless you tell them, oh, I screwed up.
Gotcha.
I meant to do that, but keeping your poker face on, right?
I hear you. Thank you for that. Let's move to the keyword discussions. You are bringing a very interesting one. So, what word are we discussing today?
My word is transparency. And I have over the years learned that transparency is key in the executive director role in the C-suite. It's key to valuable relationships and open and honest relationships with your leadership. And so I've learned along the way that it's not wise to just keep everything to yourself as the executive director. You have to create relationships with your leadership that help grow the association. You have to be transparent and you have to keep open and honest relationships with your own team, your staff, in order for your staff to start to trust you and want to do more for you. And so my management style is transparency. And I really got a chance with ATA to share that transparency and really step into that because I stepped into something that I didn't have all the answers. I didn't even have the background. I didn't have anything documented. And so all I could do was assess and be transparent and share the information and be honest with my board. Even the dirty, down dirty, ugly, addressing the elephant in the room, that is me. I've learned how to do that. And this particular association, I've had the chance to actually put that into real action. Tackling these hard conversations in the boardroom, talking about things that the board already knows, but they didn't really want to address it, and being empathetic and transparent enough to help them understand it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to say, yeah, this happened on our watch, but we're not going to dwell on this. We're going to learn from this and we're going to move forward. So that goes for also with staff. I've had some very, very hard times with having to have difficult conversations with teams. And that's probably the hardest part of my job. I don't like to have the tough conversations with staff. I don't like that because I know what it feels like to have a hard conversation. I know what it feels like to be on the receiving end. Being transparent with my staff is so important to me because I want them to feel like they can always come to me and they can always be honest and open and they always know that I'm advocating for them. And someone on my team just yesterday said they told their therapist said, who's your go-to? And she said Kelli Baxter. And I felt
Yeah.
so proud to hear that. It was so nice to hear that. She said, I always know you have my back, regardless. I know that you have my back and you empower me to do more. You have so much confidence in me and I never want to let you down. And I was like, wow, I just felt so honored. I was like, wow, that's really important to me. And I've learned more of that during this whole lockdown and things that are happening in the world, the economy, the civil unrest and all of that. I think I learned that transparency is real. Now it's more important than ever. If you're not going to be honest with yourself first, how can you be honest with others? If you're not going to be open, then how can you move forward? How can you help your association move forward?
What I love about what you just shared is your ability to build your team and put in place that psychology safety net so that
Mhm.
we can open our heart and be real with each other. I guess from another extreme, when hearing this transparency doesn't mean that we open all of our books and then share everything about us with each other. So how do we set up the boundary so that we can still be professional enough at the same time having that genuine exchange so that we can build that genuine relationship with each other?
I really think it's all in understanding what needs to be said. It's almost like that commercial, the NBC commercial, the more you know. You have to decide what's the goal, what's the vision, what do they need to know to help them move forward? And on the leadership side, on the board side, being transparent means what does the board need to know that will help them move the association forward and continue to align everything against their mission and their vision. And with staff, being transparent is what part of this meeting do I need to tell my team? What does the staff need to know that can help them do more in their position and in their departments? It's really a balance. You don't sometimes need to tell that much. For example, there were some harsh things, in my opinion, that were said in a meeting one time with an association that I thought, wow, I wouldn't share that with my staff because that wouldn't really make them feel so good. And it's really an opinion of someone. So I really wouldn't share that with my staff. And that was so many years ago. I thought, wow, but I will share the positives. It's a balance between, okay, being transparent about positives and negatives. You sometimes have to be transparent about negative situations. And that is where the true balance of empathy comes in. You have to dig down. And as a leader, you have to decide, I have to be transparent, but how do I exhibit the transparency with empathy?
Mm.
In a sense. So it's easier said than done. And I'm always thinking, was I too transparent at some point? You have to wonder sometimes, should I not have said that? But being a leader is being a leader. I read a blog this morning that said being a leader is making the tough decision and not always thinking, well, what would that person think? What do I think that person will say to me? It's taking the feelings out, the emotional part out.
I guess what I'm hearing from this response is, first of all, you start from the purpose of the conversations, the
Mhm.
goal and the vision where we want to head to. And
Mhm.
then you kind of work back to see what material, what input you provide to your audience so that everyone can make an informed decisions.
Mhm.
And I'm hearing that very clearly from your conversation with the board. I'm not sure if this is now an appropriate time to bring in your medical situation to the conversations, because I love to hear how that transparency is being implemented in your journey of sharing the news with the team. And I'm sure there is a lot of what ifs and
Yeah.
preparations that come into the conversation at the time.
Yeah, I've had quite a traumatic year. When I started with ATA, I had some problems with my back and I waited. I was like, it's no big deal. Halfway through 2023, my doctor said, dude, you got to have surgery. And I was like, what? So I felt, wow, it's a shock. That was my first major surgery. And it meant that I had to take time off. And so I was first afraid, as most people, I think, wow, I just got in this role. I can't take time off. So I pushed it and held off as long as I could. And at some point, I was like, okay, the doctor said, you have to have surgery. He scheduled a surgery and I was forced to deal with it immediately. So in November of last year, I had surgery. I notified my board. But what I did prior to that was I started to map out, okay, what is this going to look like? When can I have this surgery? What part of the year will this be the least disruptive to the staff, to the association, to my board, to everyone? I probably shouldn't have been thinking that way, but I think as an executive director, I think it's hard not to think that way because you're in charge. So I finished my annual conference in October and had surgery on November 1st. So
Wow.
my conference, it was sheer agony. I was in so much pain, but I had planned to only take 2 weeks off. And so I told my board, I'm only going to be down for a couple of weeks and then I'm going to work remotely and it's going to be fine. Well, 2 weeks, I did a couple of meetings. On the day that I said I was coming back, I would go back online, and I was still in so much pain and I was so out of sorts that I realized after that day, wow, you're not Superwoman and you can't do this. And so I decided at that point, I definitely got to put myself first. And I did. And I actually put an out of office message that said basically, I'm recovering, I'm on medical leave, I'm recovering slowly. I will be operating on part-time hours, responses will be delayed. And I kept that on through the end of the year so that I could take the time that I needed without the mental stress of thinking, oh my God, people think that I'm not answering emails and I'm not here. And so I did that and I felt so much better. It helped me recover. So I came back to work January 1, full time, had first business travel in February. And then summer comes around, July 4th weekend, had a great weekend. The Saturday, July 4th weekend, stepped outside my back door, broke my ankle. And the thoughts that rushed through my mind at that point were just so devastating. It took my breath away and I didn't know what to do. I kept thinking, it's not broken, it's just bruised really badly. But the first thought that I had was, oh my God, I have so much stuff to do. And I think that was sad to think first. I have so much stuff I have to get done. And oh my God, I can't walk. So I find out that it's broken in two places. I have friends in high places and was able to see the chief of orthopedic trauma surgery in 3 days and then get scheduled for surgery the following week. It was 10 days that I fell, saw a surgeon, got surgery, and was on the mend already. And the trauma of hearing a doctor say, you can't walk or put weight on this for 4 to 6 weeks was
Wow.
just devastating for an A-type personality who is always going, 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 prides herself on multitasking, and can do everything in her mind. So I am now 8 weeks post-op. This happened in July. We're now in August. I just got my stitches out August 1st. I saw my doctor just this week. Finally got to get off of crutches. I had been on crutches from July 6th until August 28th on crutches. Cannot move whatsoever. So I was challenged both emotionally and physically with figuring out how am I going to function. I didn't have a problem with work necessarily because I already have a hybrid environment. I already was working from home. That's not such a big deal. The challenge was not being able to just do what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it and realizing I need help. And so the emotional toll that it has taken on me has been quite a learning experience. And what I learned right away was I have to give myself more grace. I learned how to give myself more grace during this time and say, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay that you can't do that. Nothing's going to fall apart while you're gone. I can share this. When I told my executive committee what happened, and I said, I'm going to have surgery. And my board meeting was the end of July in Portland. So I'm like, uh-oh. And they said, are you not going to be able to come? Who's going to come in your stead?
Oh,
And
wow.
that showed me right there that there was this panic that they didn't need to have, but I needed to help them understand it's okay if I'm not there. And here's what I'm going to do to help you be calm and help you get through the board meeting without me. The board meeting is really for you, not me. And so I was able to attend, of course, the board meeting virtually. And it was a good chance for the new board leadership to mesh and to really lead each other. The other challenge this year that I think probably is just added fuel to the fire was we have a leadership change every year in the fall. We had a new president and a new president-elect. So the president-elect is brand new, but the president was someone that had been the president-elect prior and moved into the role. In February, we found out that the president had cancer and was going to have to
Wow.
step down from their role. And so that was an immediate shift on the board from having someone experienced in the role to now I've got an entirely new executive committee because everyone else had been newly elected except for the president. So I spent February through this whole year been working to help them understand their roles, get up to speed with what's been going on, the decisions that were made by the previous leadership. And so that set a little panic in me with the fall that, like, oh my God, they're still so new. They are panicking because I was the person that they could turn to. So it's been traumatic in a sense that I've had to just shift. I've had to adapt. I'm adapting to my environment. But my environment for the last 6 weeks was to be on one leg. And every day I had to make a decision. Am I going to stay upstairs or am I going to be downstairs in the living room on a chair? Am I going to sit in this chair in my bedroom or am I going to sit in the bed and keep my leg lifted so that I can work? Am I going to try to go sit outside and have coffee on Saturday? Or do I just feel like, no, I don't want to navigate the stairs today because my leg hurts so bad because I only have one good leg. So the challenges of that have led me to the realization that I am human and things are still okay. I got the okay to come off of crutches. I was so happy. I got a chance to take my staff to lunch and they were so excited. Everyone was so excited. Our staff lives in about 5 different states, but there were 6 of us that actually are local. And my meeting planner flew in from Boston and we got to do some inventory in the office. They were there and we went to lunch and it was just so nice to like see human beings in person. It was so really nice, but it's really been a journey that I guess was supposed to happen. When it happened, I said, wow, first thing I said in the ER was, I'm too old for this to be happening to me. And I was going to get a pedicure. I was going to relax. And then I thought, wow, I can't do anything. Like, what am I going to do? And I realized, okay, this is something that's happening for a reason. You have to slow down. That was the
Mm.
first thing that came to mind. The first 3 weeks, friends and associates that would call me or email would say, wow, what a way to slow you down, huh? And the realization then set in that I can't go to ASAE. That was very
Mm.
hard, very, very hard because I worked hard on a presentation, submitting the presentation, getting it accepted, finding the panelist, and just mapping out everything. And then I felt horrible having to tell them, I can't go. I need you
Mm.
guys to take this and carry it. And they were so gracious and said, we got this. We appreciate you for doing all the work, but we got this. And so that was a tough decision because I tried to make it work. I really was going to try to go. And I thought, oh, I can get a scooter, I can get an accessible room, and I'll be fine. But then I went to the doctor the week before the conference and he said, oh, I need you to stay on these crutches for another 3 weeks. I'm like, oh my God. So I thought, wow, I have one of those rolling scooters at home. I was willing to do that. I was willing to get the wheelchair in the airport and I was trying to get the scooter, but then I would have nightmares that I would fall in the shower in
Mm.
Cleveland and my husband wasn't there. And I just said to him, I said, if you don't want me to go, I won't go. And when that came out of my mouth, I thought to myself, you don't want yourself to go because you're afraid you're going to fall and you're afraid that you don't have the accessibility that you truly need and you won't have the help. And so in reality, I was trying to convince myself that he didn't want me to go, but I really didn't want to go because I was afraid that I could not navigate simple things, going to get water by myself. I couldn't do it because I was on crutches. You can't do anything by yourself. And so that was a difficult decision that was made. And I thought, well, I did what I could do. And next year's next year. And, over that weekend, lots of folks text me and emailed me and called and said, so glad you didn't come because you would have never made it. It would have been so hard for you. And I thought, wow, thank you for confirming that, for making me feel better because I definitely had some FOMO.
I love how you mentioned at the very beginning that you realize that you are not a superwoman. I love how you call it out loud that you need
Mhm.
help. And I know that for some individuals, it takes a lot of courage to admit that we need help. I also love how you then come to a realization that I am human. Things are going to be okay. Again, it takes a lot of courage to realize, to acknowledge that.
Mhm.
I love to hear how does this experience added to more lessons that you've learned so far, and Have this experience impact on any decisions, any changes moving forward?
It really has. I think the biggest thing that it's taught me is in leading by example, I'm showing others that it's okay to not be this go, 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 not multitasking person. It's okay to just be in the moment. And that's what I'm learning. Just be in the moment. Don't stay on the computer 12 hours a day. Don't feel obligated to send emails after hours when you know that you don't really have to do that. No one's going to die. I'm not an emergency room doctor, and I'm leading by example with my team because there are other people that they just put so much stress on themselves. So what I've worked really hard on during this process is showing them how to not put so much stress on yourself. I've just this week started sending little blog posts about you don't owe your CEO your life. You don't owe me your family. You don't owe me your personal time. And so I sent an article from LinkedIn to them, and each person individually said, "Thank you so much for sending that." I'm so ingrained with teaching them that work-life balance is the utmost importance, because if you don't have the balance, you're not a good functional employee. You're just going through the motions and doing things so you can get your paycheck. And I know that my team are very passionate and they love what they do and they're really good at what they do. And I said to them recently, we have over 50 years of a combined experience here, and we are all contributing to the success of this one cause in our association. And each week, we all bring something new to the table and we share it with each other. So let's keep doing that. I am constantly saying, don't get on your computer this weekend. And if you do, hope you don't send an email. I hope you use the new tools that you can use that will schedule an email out Monday so that we have the time to rest and physically recharge. So I think that these lessons, as hard as it is to experience what I've experienced, and my husband said, you've had a lot of trauma in this year, 2 major surgeries in less than a year. As hard as it's been to go through these physical challenges, they have strengthened me as a leader and helped me lead by example by showing my cohorts, my associates, my other executive directors that you can still be a human and be a leader. I think some people think, oh, you have to be Superman or Superwoman. And of course, in our dreams, we are. I mean, as a kid, I wanted to be Wonder Woman, you know?
Nice. Well, I mean, thank you so much for saying that because most often when we as staff member receive an email from our boss, right?
Like you cringe, you get like tense. And I'm working really hard to help my team not do that. There's some of my staff members that I get so worried about them. And I'm like, tell me how I can help you. I'm always asking that question. What can I do to help you? What can I do to help you just relax? How can I give you more help if you need help? Please, let's check in. Let's just talk. We don't have to talk about work. Let's just talk about
Mm.
your grandkids. I try to keep things light and keep things calm. It's already hard enough to work in this environment because you're servicing volunteers, and volunteers are just that. They're paying, they're paying the association to volunteer their service. And so I remember that all the time, but I also put my staff first. I really have to put the staff first and make sure that they're okay. If they're not okay, we can't make the association okay.
I hear you. Thank you for that. What sort of legacy are you envisioning to build for the American Translator Association?
I'd love to be remembered as a servant leader that successfully led this association into the future, empowering others to grow in areas and being the leader in expanding on the technology and the advocacy within the association. On the staff side, I want to be remembered as that person that helped others grow in areas they never thought possible and leading others by example with empathy and authenticity.
Is there one initiative that you can share to help us understanding how do you build towards this legacy?
Constantly educating yourself, always knowing that there's something else you can learn in life, the personal experiences you have somehow always align with what's happening on the professional level. It allows you to be more authentic and be more empathetic with your volunteers, with your staff, and understanding that this thing that we call life is not cookie cutter. It's very different. And it's always changing, and there's always something new to learn and to grow on.
I'm particularly interested in one of your component of your legacy about leading your association into the future.
Mhm. Yes.
Can you paint for me a vision of what that future look like for ATA?
Wow. I just started learning more about foresight and future thinking, and I am slow walking that into teaching and sharing that vision with the board and helping them. I think the vision I have for them is helping them understand that there's always an opportunity to look forward and see what we've accomplished and how do we make it better in 3 to 5 years or 1 year. What do we look forward to in 5 years? How is it going to be different? I think the pandemic has shown us how to pivot in a way that we can prepare for the unexpected and try to prepare in some form or fashion. If that's in future thinking, then that's how we continue to shine and move forward. So, I mean, for the future of ATA, I want it to look like a bigger and better association where it's constantly growing and leadership can recognize when there's a need for another pivot. There's a need to look into another demographic. There's a need to step into another facet of the industry and how it works and how can we expand and create that ladder of success for translators and interpreters. That's really what I'd love to see. And I envision the future of ATA is like creating this ladder of success for professionals in the translating and interpreting profession to grow.
The way that I visualize what you just said is really in a couple of years' time, you guys will be able to spotlight a lot of success stories to then inspire your members so they can themselves map out their career journey and be successful in what they've opted to do.
Yes. And it's a cultural change in the mind. It's a mindset change for any association that has many, many years of one way of doing things, and then they shift. And so I think
Mm.
ATA is in that shift right now. The shift has started with the change in leadership, the change in technology, the change in the way that translators, interpreters are obtaining work and doing their work. So that's the shift that I'm working really hard to help the new leadership transition into. And, most associations, they transition all the time with their leadership. So it's a matter of, I hope that I will be that executive director that can help them really be comfortable in the change. Change is very hard. So I want to help them adjust to the change in a positive way and not a negative way.
That's exciting. Thank you for sharing that. We're getting to the last question of the episode, and I hope you enjoy this one. Imagine if the American Translators Association were a fictional character, who would it be and why?
I thought about this. Have you ever seen the show Cheers? It was a show based out of Boston in a bar, and they had a song that, said, "Where everybody knows your name." ATA would be that fictional Cheers of sorts. I imagine some of the viewers will know and they'll laugh and they'll hear that song in their head, "Where everybody knows your name." I
Um,
envision that for ATA because ATA is that melting pot of culture, of professionalism, and the sharing of wisdom within its member base. It's a network of passion, and each member brings that passion to the association. And that's really what makes ATA that premier translating and interpreting association.
nice. So I'm hearing a very strong sense of belonging, a strong sense of welcoming, so
Yeah.
that everyone feel that they have a space in
Yes.
this community that you build.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's really cool. Thank you so much for that. This is the end of the podcast today. Thank you again for your time and sharing your story with us.
Thank you for
Can,
letting me share. Lots of
that's
fun. My name is Kelli Baxter, and you are listening to Humans of Authenticity, the CEO Special Edition.